Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the second edition of the season two Diamond Night Studios interview series. I have a special guest in the studio or in our session today, Ando. We're good friends, so we met each other at a program actually this summer for screen composing. Ando, he's had many scores that he's done for film and so I'm excited to have him in the studio and to talk a little bit about him, how he got into music, and his career. So, how are you doing today, Ando?
I'm doing really good today. How about you, Camry?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I can't complain. Another day, right? Just keep going.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. So just to give the audience a little backstory. So yeah, this summer we had a screen scoring program. I think it was a month. Yeah, it was a month long. And me and Ando actually had some very nice conversations, very good, insightful conversations. Not just about music, but a little bit of everything. And yeah, we hit it off. I gotta say, Ando has such a diverse style of music, and I love talking to him about music because it always becomes a philosophical conversation with us. It's
It
so
always.
yeah, and it's so fun to talk with him about it. So maybe we can get a little bit that today. But before just to give you all some context, before we get into that, I just want to get some for our audience to get to know you a little bit better. So how did you get into music? Where did your journey start, Ando?
Well, thank you, Camry. Well, uh, that's a really general question, but if I had to answer it, be more specific, I would say it started when I was around 10 years, 11 years old. Um, like I was a really not busy, like busy-minded kid. Like I always did a lot of manual stuff, figurines of action figures of video games such as Halo and maybe Mortal Kombat. And my mom, she realized that I had creative potential, and then she started asking me, "What would you like to do?" In terms of an activity for the afternoons. And the first thing that came into my mind was like, I want to play piano. So we started looking for piano teachers in the area. I live in Mexico, and over here there are not a lot of piano teachers, but there are a lot of guitar teachers. So we were able to find a guitar teacher, and he was more than a teacher. In the beginning, it was very, me, I'm teaching you these chords, I'm teaching you this thing, which I'm living off from, and then as the years went by and I started, getting to my teenage years, I started seeing the man as more of a friend. And he got me into flamenco music, jazz music, classical music that I loved, and I didn't even know that I loved because, when I was a kid, I mostly heard to metal bands, Breaking Benjamin. I don't remember what other bands, but that was one of the bands that comes into my mind. Really strong metal sounds, and I found that those sounds came from the classical world, and they came specifically from the modern classical world, so the 20th century, 19th century, and that's how journey in music started, playing guitar with this amazing musician that taught me everything he knew in terms of, he even taught me about composition and theory, and that was the beginning of, let's say, this journey that is continuing, and I don't know when it's going to end. Maybe it's not going to end, ever going to end. I hope not. Yes.
No, I appreciate you mentioning that too. And by the way, just so the audience knows, Ando is a phenomenal flamenco guitar player. I mentioned to him, it's so difficult, especially in I don't know what it is in North America, but I haven't found that many flamenco guitarists, and it's a very popular instrument, especially in our medium, and so do you want to elaborate a little bit on that experience of learning flamenco, maybe how your instructor inspired you, or what are some of the challenges that came with playing flamenco guitar?
Oh yes, Cameron. Well, yes. I would say that guitar, and especially classical guitar, is a very challenging instrument for us, humans, for the way our anatomy is. It's like and in the piano, it's very straightforward. You just sit and then you place your hands on the keys, and that's it. I mean, there's not a lot of challenge. And but in guitar, it's divided by fourths, and you can only play one hand the notes, and the other hand it's basically plucking the strings. And when you're a kid and you just want to play stuff, the first thing that my professor taught me was chords. He was just teaching me chords, and I think that my process of composition is not guided by melodies but more by chords. And that's how I started composing music, by playing chords, not really playing melodies. And I remember that in the beginning, I was always the one playing the accompaniment. I was not the one playing the melodies, because usually in flamenco guitar you have two guitars, and one of the guitars is playing the accompaniment or the chords, and the other guitar is playing the melody. And then he's soloing, and that's how it all started, by me being the side guitar, like me being the servant, one of the servants of the arrangement, because the player who's playing the melody, you could say he's the protagonist, or like the I don't know how to say it, like the I don't know how to say it, but he's the brightest player. He's the one that's, when you listen to a song, you're not really listening about to the harmony. You're listening more to the melody, or at least that's what most people remember the most. But in terms of American music and guitar, well, guitar is a very popular instrument, man. I mean, it's everywhere. And there's lots of types of guitars. I mean, you have the flamenco guitar, which is from Spain, but it came to America, and depending on which country you are, they have different styles of it. And then in North America, in the U.S. and in Canada, people do a lot of more bluegrass and jazz and rock, and I think that's equally as challenging. And of course, those two worlds, they have been in constant influence from each other. Like, for example, you have Carlos Jobim, who he was a guitar player. He was also a pianist, and he went to New York with his bossa nova from Brazil, and he inspired all of the jazz pianists that were in New York at the time. And then jazz fusion came, and then jazz fusion went back to South America, to Central America, and then it has been like a constant flow of information and culture, in our continent. It's in America, but I don't know if did that answer your
No,
question?
absolutely. And actually, I had more questions. But yeah, no, I was curious. You mentioned how flamenco can be used in terms of storytelling, how melody chords. Would you say that could have been a segue that pushed you into film composition? Because our medium is really based in storytelling. Or was there something else that pushed you into writing for scoring the picture?
Well, that's I would say that that was one of the influences. that prompted me to start writing music for movies. But I would say that what made me start writing music for movies was actually the encouragement that I received from my stepfather after he started hearing my compositions. And then he started telling me, hey, your music is very relaxing. Like I find less of poetry and more of feeling here, because I don't know if that makes sense, but like when you're hearing a song by, I don't know, Rihanna or like Taylor Swift or any popular musician, you're not really hearing the harmonies. You're hearing more about the stance that those artists, what they are saying, their poetry, which I'm not criticizing, I think it's really good, but I've never been a poet. I'm not a poet. I'm more of a feeler. I'm more of a person who integrates feelings, and then I want to express them through my music. And my stepfather, he caught that, and then he told me, why don't you try to make music for the screen? And so I applied to the University of Southern California, Thornton. I didn't get in. I applied twice. I didn't get in, but I kept going, and I've been making music, and I've been selling it to my one of my clients who's in the United States, and but I'm getting better with my music, and I don't know. I think I've sidetracked it a little bit.
No, 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 no. You're
Uh,
you're you're perfect. You're perfect, man. Like, this is perfect.
yes, but to answer your question, definitely it was not me who realized that my music had screen potential. It was other people.
That's interesting. Because yeah, because like you mentioned, the poetry and versus telling a story through music itself, and it's like they have similar objectives, but it's how they're presented. I mean, and I think a lot of it's with our medium in general, because the music isn't designed to be at the forefront, or the only thing that's telling a story. What are your thoughts on that? Or I guess, did you have and encounter any challenges with conforming to picture, or writing music that was designed to serve a bigger purpose beyond the music itself?
Me personally, I didn't have a lot of issues with that, but definitely I've seen that contemporary music, I mean, not contemporary, but the latest uh, film scores out there, they lack a lot of musicality that earlier scores had. And I think I don't know why that's the case these days, maybe because directors these days, they want to keep on a trend of like a more of a action and less musicality, more action, less thematic, and I did have issues with that. I did have a lot of issues with that because I had a partner which we composed music together. This was when I was a teenager, and the guy, how we musicians are, we are so arrogant, with oh, I'm the one who composes the melody. No, I'm the one who composes the harmony. And he always wanted to make the melody. But I did learn something really important from him. And that is that if my music is not easily recognizable from the rest of the music out there, then I'm doing something wrong. You know, I'm doing something that's wrong. And I can understand that some people do not agree with that opinion, but I've taken that opinion into my own way of composing music. So even though today's rules dictate that film composers cannot make uh, too complex thematic themes for the purpose of serving a film. I still want to inject a little bit of complexity to my compositions, similar to what Philip Glass did, in his time, which was
No,
a yeah.
yeah, no, I appreciate your perspective on that too, because I know a lot of people are concerned about, AI and all the, the complex things that come with that. But like you mentioned, voice is important, especially when it comes to that, because I think that's something that, or at least from my perspective, that AI can't. AI has to notice a pattern in something, and then it creates data based upon a pattern of of whether that's music or whatever AI is being used to replace. But that's what makes music so special to us, is our ability to not have the same voice, or not to do things that are unpredictable, and I encounter that with like our recording sessions. You never know what's going to happen when you can prepare as much as you want, you can do the parts, you can do everything, but sometimes the musicians, they take your vision and they create their own perspective, and then it's better than what you ever imagined. And I, at least I felt that in my session. I'm sure you probably felt it too, but it's yeah, it's a surreal thing. And so no, I totally appreciate that perspective that you have on that. Did you want to say anything else about that topic, or I know I just talked a lot.
Um, no, no, no. I'm talking a lot too. But the AI thing is really surreal because after we wrapped up with the SEA program, I went to Spain and I met a filmmaker he's making a documentary on a particular area of Spain, northern Spain. He's making a documentary about cheese of the area, and how that culture is surviving, even though the city culture is trying to come in and fight with the provincial citizens. That's basically the thing right now. Is that we have technology advancing, and then human capacity has less value in society for some reason, because our technology is advancing. But uh, I don't think that people appreciate machines as much as they do human interaction. I don't think a machine will ever replace a human interaction. So hopefully AI stays as it is, and it doesn't harm anyone, because these days, people, I think that our society, I'm think I'm going too far, but I think our society sometimes lacks reality checks. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah,
But
yeah, and I totally agree, because I think it goes beyond our industry. Of course, we use AI to our advantage when we're composing music, but it's like going to a hotel and they do something wrong. Like, sometimes people just want to have another human to be that person to yell at, and if there are just a bunch of kiosks everywhere, I think people would be deterred, because they're like, I don't, it's not the same as chastising an actual person. Not that I'm not encouraging anyone to do that to another human being, but it's just the fact that we understand the struggle. And so that's the same thing with film. I think is that at least with screenwriting, with storytelling through music, we're seeing life in a perspective from another person's eyes. And I think that's why we treasure these mediums so much, is because that we can understand the struggle. We may not see eye to eye with the struggle, but we appreciate knowing that all of us have a certain allotted time on this planet. Here we go with our philosophical conversations. But but yeah, I think that is important, and that's why art AI can only go so far, and before people just like, I don't want to, I don't want to listen to that stuff anymore. But yeah, no. You were perfectly in line with my question, and answered it perfectly. So yeah, so we talked about your inspirations, or did we talk about your inspirations?
um No, I
for
don't think
music?
so.
Okay. Well, then this is a perfect question. Then,
Yeah.
what are some of your inspirations for music, and what is your process of creating music? What, like, how do you, like, if you're giving a scene or you're just working on a demo cue, what is your process of coming up with the uh, music?
Oh, yes. So it has changed, as time has, as I've worked on more and more projects. But the way I do things now is that I, when I'm working on a scene, I usually try to watch the scene as many times as I can. And after the third or the fourth time I'm watching the clip, I start hearing music, sort of like Richard Bellis, he advised to us, and I took his advice to heart, everything that he said, I started, and some of the things that he was teaching us, I believe I was already doing, and most of us we were already doing, but uh, so I inspire myself from the thing that I'm watching. So, and then I grab a piano, I start playing some notes, and it's really strange, Canberra. It's like when I'm watching a scene, it's like I'm taking music that I've heard, but I'm making it my own way, my own version. Like the last score that I made was for the Hunger Games for the Screen Composer Academy, which we were part of, and when I was composing that music, I was thinking about I do not remember which movie I was thinking about, but I was thinking about a movie where there's a lot of mystery, like a cave, a hole. So an image comes into my mind when I'm composing, and then sound appears. And then I try to portray that into the piano. Then I make a piano sketch, and each of the voices, I try to assign them to an instrument. And from there, the arrangement, it starts growing and it starts growing until I have, I don't know how to say it, like a fetus of some kind. It's like, I don't know, it's like childbirth. It's like, that to me is the way I compose for screen, but it's different when it's standalone music. But it's similar, but I don't know. I think it's more a lot more independent, a lot more imagination is required for that.
No, thank you so much for sharing that with us, and I'm sure everybody has a different process of coming up with their ideas. But no, thank you for being willing to share that. I know we only have about 10 minutes left, but I want to get in a couple of questions for sure. So what are your current projects? Or is there anything that you can tell us? Because I know there's a lot of confidentiality in our industry, but any current projects that you are working on that you would like to share?
Um, yes. So there's one project, sorry, that I'm going to release soon. That it's an electronic album that's gonna be titled In the Deep. It's gonna have 8 tracks on it, and I think it's one of the best things. I don't like praising myself, but I think it's one of the best projects I've done. Last year I tried to release an electronic album, but I couldn't release it because my client was not happy with the result. And we had a lot of issues with the deliveries, and in the end, he told me that I should only released a couple of them. So I only released 2 of the 8 tracks that were from that previous album. And this new album, it has 8 tracks. I've been working on it since February, I think. So I finished it like 2 months ago. Before we met, actually, Canberra, I had already finished the album, and so that's one thing. And then I also have a couple of other projects that I'm doing with some other clients, and but in terms of film, that I only have that cheese documentary, which I told you that from Asturias. And yeah, that's it. But I'm working. Since after SCA, I picked up my instrument again, my guitar. I'm starting to practice a lot of tunes. I'm gonna start playing live in places. I was practicing some guitar. So I'm trying to be busy, man. And and next year I'm gonna study a master, an
Oh, awesome.
MBA.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome, dude. So you're just staying busy, man. That's awesome, dude. It's great to hear. So I that kind of leads into my next question. What plans for the future do you have regarding music? Like what are where's your, you know, what's your outlook on where you're headed?
Well, in terms of that, I'm not sure, but what I'm sure is that I do not like a lot of I do not like a lot of the movies that have been out lately. I don't like how Hollywood is treating the arts, and society in general. Recently I've watched a lot of old movies, and I've read a lot of books of like Greek mythology and all of that recently. And I've asked myself, where are these great works, that our forefathers had? Why can't we have stories with the weight that these stories had? And I think that for the future, my plan is to contribute to the film industry in some way or another. Of course, I can contribute it with my music, but I also want to contribute it with the writing, and maybe even writing a screenplay. And I think I am deviating a little bit from the whole music thing, but I think that uh, all of the professionals that are involved in the making of a movie, or well, in this case fiction, because we're talking about fiction, but there's also documentaries and all of that. And but in terms of fiction, I think that all the parts should be equally involved. And why? Because there needs to be unity in the creation of an artistic project. Like recently I watched not a documentary, it was more like a behind the scenes of the creation of the video game Halo 2. And you can hear how the creators and all of the game developers of that game were so excited about the project they were doing. And sometimes I do not hear that same excitement in a lot of the creatives of today. I think they're devoid of that excitement that needs to be there in order to smell a great project in the making.
No, dude, I agree 100% with you, and a lot can be said for where is the art headed, but I agree 100% in that the way that, like, even when I was growing up, Disney's movies that they released had themes that were like just red strips of a red cord going through the film, and by the time you got to the end of the film, it's like you picked up something that you know could potentially make you a better person, or there's just general idea of what an ideology. And I know, like, not everybody's an idealist like me, but they're strings of what humanity should be. And that means different things to different people, but I think that is the celebration of the art, or what the art should be in my personal perspective. But that's just coming from a composer. But anyway, no, I appreciate all your comments and everything that you had to share on the interview today. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And I'm excited to see all the work that you have out. And dude, I'm always here to support you, and be your personal cheerleader in all your endeavors.
Well,
And thank you so much
likewise.
for everything that you've done through SCA. And I always wish you the best, man. So do you have any other final comments you have in our last 3 minutes?
No, thank you, Camber, for having me in this interview. you're a great composer. Like that track that you composed for SEA, that final one, it made everyone cry, and I think you have a special touch for composition, you know, and man, you're gonna do great things. Thank you for having me in this interview.
Yeah, no problem. And yeah, so this is our second interview for the season two, and we'll see everybody on the next round.
All right, guys, bye.